Okay, well, we'll just get into the intro here. It won't be very long because all I got to say is it was going to be Wes and Sue Earp. And they're not feeling so well. So we turned to Bonnie, and Bonnie's got lots of stuff on the shelf. She's been birding for decades as a longtime member of MOS and the Bird Club. She's especially passionate about native sparrows, or little brown jobs, as they're affectionately known. Over the years, she's broadened her interest to diversify as a master naturalist with odonates, caterpillars, spiders, and also become main study subjects. Taking up the camera, as many of us know, Bonnie documents many subjects with her photos and donates her pictures, and has been published in numerous books and magazines to include National Geographic, as I understand. That brings us to Bonnie, so I won't take any more time.
Thank you.
Give me a moment. Go ahead and talk, but I'm gonna.
Well, hello, everyone. I got that email text 2 days ago. Can you do a program? And I'm like, sure. So I looked through, what did I have? You know, I've been working on a series of birding by habitat. I did birds of field and meadow, birds of the woodland. The next one that I had yet to start working on was birds of ponds and lakes. So that is what I was planning to do. But of course, I did not have it ready. So I looked through, what did I have? And I said, oh, let me do this sparrow talk. It's been, I think, quite a while since I've done this talk. I've done it for a lot of clubs throughout the state. And I think it's been probably 10 years maybe since I did it for Howard. So for people that have seen it before, you know, you can never see too many sparrows.
Bonnie, real quick, do you want it all out or is it good with 25?
Yeah, we can, I think probably all out. It'll be to see the sparrows better. So just a little bit, I think my very first birding convention was 1979. And then I quickly after that got into the Howard County Bird Club. I was the field trip chair for 12 years, I think, quite some period of time.
Go ahead. I'm working on it.
And then of course, during that time period, I was very, very lucky to have the mentorship of many people in the bird club, especially Joe Solom, Bob and Joe Solom. And from the very beginning, they would always be, oh, look at these lovely flowers, look at the butterflies, look at the dragonflies. They really taught me from the very beginning to look at more than just birds. Now, it took me probably about 10 years of ignoring that and only looking at birds. And now I've gone back to being very diverse in what I look at. So if you've been on a field trip with me, you know that we're looking at most everything, not just birds.
Okay. Hopefully it works. I hope so.
We will hope that it works. So most people recognize this. This is the Howard County Conservancy. I'm primarily birding for sparrows every single time I go out birding. I do look at other birds, but obviously I tend to go to places that have nice field and meadow. So wonderful talk by Brenda. And that's one thing that I'm very excited about is where can we look for good habitat for our beloved sparrows. So this is a good example of nice goldenrod mixed grasses. This is great habitat for sparrows. This is another area of the Conservancy. This is kind of a little bit of a short, almost fescue grass. This one is not so great for sparrows. They're gonna like a lot more diversity of grass, like Brenda was saying, some warm season, some wildflowers. So short grass fescue is not great for sparrows. This is Waterford Farm. So this is where you've got like nice cornfield, foxtail, mixed grasses. This is going to be another nice sparrow habitat. And another Waterford Farm. When corn is cut, that's a great place to go looking for sparrows. Once you've got cornfields that have been cut to the ground, you can find a lot of great birds there. This is one of our field trips to Alpha Ridge or Alpha Landfill. You can see there's Kurt, Joe Hansman, some other folks. This is a really, really good example of undisturbed kind of grass and dirt, really nice habitat. And that was, I think, one of those just marches onward through this grass, where this is short again. Very, very specific sparrows would like this type of habitat. And we were doing what's pretty typical when you're looking for some of these short grass sparrows, walking in a line, spread out to see what birds we can kind of move up out of the grass. And I'll tell you why we do that in a moment. Alpha Ridge Park, so another nice area that's just kind of nice, wet field area next to streams. You're going to have lots of nice sparrows in that. And Meadowbrook Park, again, cattails, all of this is very diverse looking habitat. And that's what you're looking for when you're going for sparrows. And then nice flock of red-winged blackbirds. So another just sparrows can be here all year, but fall is your best time to see them. September, October, that's your prime time that you want to look for sparrows. So I will, as we go through the different species, talk about when we would see them. But once we get into the peak of fall, that's when you can go out and just see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sparrows in a day. All right. That is a little nest full of song sparrows. So that was one that I happened to find by walking through the grass and flushed up an adult song sparrow. And it took quite a long time of looking. And then as I was kind of crawling around on my hands and knees in that grass, I did find the nest. So those are 4 little song sparrow babies. So I think we're a little out of order, but
what do you want? Let me see. I'm not sure I can do this. This is, yeah, unfortunately.
well, then we're going to improvise. So this was actually towards the end of the program, and this is a quiz bird. So I'm going to throw this out there, and we'll do this a little bit backwards. Anybody want to take their guess on what this bird is? All right. So it is a sparrow. So this is a really difficult bird to tell from this picture because you're not seeing all the classic field marks. This is a song sparrow. So what you would normally be looking on song sparrows is a long tail, a central breast spot, streaks on the breast, which of course in this picture you can't see any of those things. And a lot of times when you're looking at sparrows, you don't see the classic field marks. Here we go, is another song sparrow. And again, you're not seeing any of the things that would classically tell you that you've got a song sparrow with this bird because you're not seeing that tail, the breast spot, or the streaks. But everything about this bird with its nice muted soft browns, lack of any bright russet colors is going to clue you in that you've got a song sparrow here. Now, this little buffy malar stripe, that would sometimes throw people that maybe they have a Lincoln sparrow with this bird, but this bird showing no olive tones is going to be your classic song. So this little guy is a savanna. So savanna sparrows have their short little tail, and then look at this nice black and white bracing on the back and the little yellow lure. So this is going to be a classic savanna. Much, much, much smaller and a little bit more compact than your other sparrows. And very often in short grass. So look at how nice and cute and tiny the little tail is on this bird. This is another savanna. And see this black and white bracing down the back? That's a really, really classic thing that you're going to look for on your savanna. And a very, very small amount of yellow on the lure there. And a little bit of a pointy-faced look. Here again, this is going to be your classic savanna. Now, this bird with its little tail hidden makes it very difficult to see that short tail. But look at this beautiful white and black bracing on the back, a little hint of yellow on the lure, and then a nice little bit of a peaked crown. And savannas often look to me like you've pinched their little faces. They have a little pointy face look. So there's again, a little bit of your small, delicate looking savanna sparrow. Now this bird, when we're looking at this from the back, what do you kind of notice is this beautiful gray and almost a little bit of an olive tone to this bird, little yellow bit on the lure and a moderately long tail. This is your Lincoln sparrow. So again, you're kind of looking, that other song sparrow had that nice little buffy malar stripe. This one's much more buffy. But this again is a tricky picture to tell because you're just seeing the back of the bird. Again, here's another Lincoln sparrow. So you've got, again, this nice little soft browns, little bit of a buffy malar stripe. And one thing that's really classic on Lincolns is they have a peaked head. They very, very often will raise their little crest, so they look like they have little tiny pointy heads. And here again, we've got our buffy malar stripe, delicate little bird, peaked head, and that's our little Lincoln sparrow. So we're going to look at swamp sparrow, and Lincoln's swamp and song are all very closely related and can be very easily confused with each other. But one thing that you're going to look for with swamp sparrows is that they're very, very colorful, very metallic, copper, pewter, beautiful, beautiful russet tones. And so again, you're looking at pewtery gray, coppery color, and I think their sides always look like they're toasted marshmallow. Beautiful, beautiful color. So here again, we're looking at a swamp, and it's got those beautiful coppery tones, very, very nice black bracing on the back, and then again, buffy sides. Now, these, believe it or not, were my test pictures of like difficult to identify. So when we go in a little farther, it'll make more sense when we see some of these from the front. But again, toasted marshmallow, that's a good indicator because not many other sparrows are going to show that much color on their sides. So most people will know this one. This is your white-throated sparrow. The nice thing about white-throats is that they'll come to feeders. You can see them all winter to practice. This is a classic white-throated. Thank you. Thank you. So one of the things, very, very white throat on this bird, many sparrows have white throats. So when you see a white throat on a sparrow, that's not going to guarantee that you have a white-throated sparrow. This bird has beautiful yellow lures and then black and white stripes. White-throated sparrows can have either black and white stripes on the top or brown and white stripes, so they can be somewhat complex. You're also looking at these nice wing bars and a nice rounded body and long tail. So here is your brown and white striped white-throated sparrow, very, very nice white throat. And then this one, you can just see some hints of the wing bars. Sometimes wing bars can be tricky because it will hide those sometimes depending on their posture. So this is your classic song sparrow. This is where when you see this bird from the front, you've got your beautiful breast spot and you've got your streaks and then your lovely, lovely rounded sparrow, very rounded in its shape. Here's your song sparrow as it's moving. So one thing that's really interesting to remember with song, swamp, and Lincoln, they all have the same sort of behavior, and they will often be mid-level or on the ground. They like thickets and saplings. When they fly, they all three fly in a pretty much similar manner, but song sparrows have a hinged, because their tail is so long, it will often flop and look like it's hinged. So if you see a sparrow flying and its tail is kind of bobbing up and down, you can 99% of the time say that you've got a song sparrow. So classic song sparrow, that beautiful breast spot, streaks on the breast. Song sparrows tend to be somewhat just two-toned. You don't see a lot of different colors on songs. Brown, or gray, and then your usual soft white breast. One thing to remember is that there's 52 different subspecies of song sparrows. So their song sparrows, lichens, and swamps are all very diverse. You never see two that look exactly alike. They're a complex sparrow, so it takes, I always say, a lot of practice looking at song sparrows before you can get comfortable with knowing all of your species of sparrows. They're somewhat of your baseline sparrow, but they're here all year, all winter. You can go out and look at them every single day. So 365 days a year, you have song sparrows to look at. And they'll often sing, like a cold winter day. Sometimes you'll get a song singing, and it's the most wonderful thing. Swamp sparrows are here as wintering birds, so it's a great time to go out to any cattail wetland area. You will more than likely find swamp sparrows in good numbers. Swamp sparrows are only migrants in spring and fall, and you will not see them in the summer. Lincoln sparrows you only see as migrants, mostly in the fall, starting about September 15th through mid-October. Once in a while, we have one that spends the winter, but that's very rare. And springtime lichens are hard to find. They're not really common as migrants in the spring, and their habitat in the spring is not your normal field habitat. It generally tends to be more weird woodland streams. I find them in strange places in the springtime. So here's a classic song sparrow. Again, just two tones to song sparrows generally. Browns, sometimes they tend to be grayish, but you don't see a lot of copper. You do not see any white on this bird from the back. And then again, the long tail. And then just beautiful, beautiful little face. So this song sparrow doesn't show a really good central breast spot. Remember, when you're looking at sparrows, it is so variable. So you have to take all the different pieces of the bird and put it together. 1 or 2 field marks does not make your sparrow. And again, cocked tail, that shows when they're flying, that flipped hinge tail, but they will often hold it up wren-like because it's so long. All right, here's a hard one. This is a very young song sparrow. So this bird has just recently fledged. You can see how if you did not really know and you're looking for what you thought was a Lincoln's with your finer streaking, this bird has fine streaking because that's a young bird. And this was summertime, so you would not be seeing Lincoln's here in the summertime. But that could be a tricky bird for people. But look how long that tail is. Here's that little baby song sparrow from the front. And again, super fine streaking and even a little buffiness to it, but you're not going to be finding, which most people might mistake this for a Lincoln's in that summertime. And here again, classic song sparrow. This one, it's a tricky picture, and pictures don't always tell the whole story of a sparrow because this one makes it look like the tail is a little bit shorter, but it's just the way that this bird is positioned. Here is a song sparrow, obviously feeding babies because it's got its caterpillar and it is worn out. It's so tired of feeding those babies. So that's why it looks ragged. And you'll see that a lot in the summertime when the adults have been feeding chicks. They just look done with it. But look at how long that tail is. And that is what you're looking for with a song sparrow. Another beautiful young song sparrow. But again, what's nice with this bird is how long the tail is. And then this one has, you can see how different each one of these song sparrows look. Different kind of thicker streaking on the back, which is not something I see a lot, which is why I thought this picture was really unique. But this is a young bird. And here we'll compare again to the swamp. So going back to, here's your song, And look at the color of the coppers on this bird and just how much more russet and golden it is. Many swamps show a little bit of yellow above the lure and then oftentimes a whitish throat, but overall very, very dark and coppery. Another swamp sparrow. Here again, look at the copper tones there. You've got whitish throat and then that kind of toasted marshmallow look. And then we're going to get it to the next swamp. Look at the streaking that you see here. So swamps, you're not going to look for breast spot streaks because they will sometimes have breast spots, sometimes streaks, sometimes clear breasts. But basically the whole thing that you're looking for is this kind of coppery color. And look at how white the throat is on that bird and the little yellow lures. So song, swamp, Lincolns, very closely related. Swamp, very coppery, rusty. Lincolns we'll get to with some finer points. And then your songs that basically are two-toned, but overall shapes and size very similar. So beautiful swamp, coppery color, and look at that pewter color on the face. Okay, here's a swamp with a clear breast and one little breast spot. But again, look at the white throat on that bird. So if you were looking at that bird just from the front, you might say white throat, white-throated sparrow. But nope, overall, you can see that it's very different with its crown stripe rather than the white throats, multiple stripes on the head. And there's your beautiful swamp from the back. So again, rust and copper, gray, a little bit of yellow. You don't ever see yellow lures on a swamp, on a song sparrow. And here is a swamp in its more breeding colors. This was a picture I took in the spring, so you can see how much more colorful this one was than the fall colors. And there it is. And swamp sparrows have the longest tarsus of any of our sparrows. They have very long legs because they spend a lot of time in the water looking for invertebrates to eat, which he's got a little yummy there. All right, this is a swamp. So look at how much streaks breast this bird has, and that could really confuse people. Streak breast and a breast spot, kind of overall confusing bird, but look at the gray. And if you were to see the sides, you can see that marshmallow, toasted marshmallow there. And again, beautiful swamp. You can see some streaking, white throat, and then that copper rust. This one could throw a lot of people. This is a swamp. So look at the buffy wash there and that little hint of a breast spot. Again, this bird is so overall copper that clues you in that you've got a swamp sparrow. Because here is the Lincolns. So let's look here. See how confusing this could be for somebody? This bird does have some fine streaks, that buffy wash, overall rusty color. And here's your Lincolns. So Lincolns have very, very defined buffy wash on the breast, which often is very contrasty with their white tummies. They've got a central breast spot, and so their streaks look like they're drawn on with a fine pen, compared to like a song sparrow's, which looks like somebody has brushed it on with a paintbrush. Again, they often will crest their little heads. They've got that lovely gray crown stripe. Another Lincoln's, see the buff against that white tummy, and then buffy malar stripe. Not really any hint of yellow on the lures like you're going to see in the swamp. Here's a Lincoln's. Now this is a Lincoln's that's a little trickier. You've got the buffy wash, but it's a very, very light buffy wash. Got your fine streaks. And then instead of the buffy malar stripe, this one's pretty white. So what is this telling you about your sparrows? You can't use one field mark to tell a sparrow. And song swamp Lincolns are all difficult to tell. And here's a Lincoln's. Again, you've got that buffy and nice, very fine streaking. And Lincoln's with his very fine streaking, buffy, and that raised crown stripe. Lincoln's are just delicate and cute. They're just darling, darling little birds. Isn't it cute? That's your Lincoln's. Look at that fine streaking and then the white tummy and the buffy stripe, buffy malar stripe, which is going to be that right there. And there's our Lincoln's from the back. Just clean, beautiful, fine bird. And there's our little Lincoln's again. So, what do you look at this bird to tell you it's a Lincoln's? You've got your buffiness there, and you've got your fine streaking. Overall lack of any copper color, except a little bit on the wing. And then you've got that little cresty head. And here's your nice Lincoln's showing those fine streaks on the head and overall kind of clean back. And see the contrast of white on the tummy versus the buff and the fine streaking. All right, so this is obviously not a sparrow, but quick break from the sparrows because September, mid-September is when you really start looking for sparrows all the way through October. What is the worst thing when you love sparrows and caterpillars equally? Well, true. Of course, birds are going to eat your caterpillars, but September is prime time for caterpillars. So I'm going to run through a few caterpillars that if the birding gets slow, you can find here in Howard County. So this is a black etched prominent from the front. This is it from the side. And this is its exuvia or its shed skin. So it's just molted out of this and has crawled out onto a willow leaf. And then these are its anal prolegs. So if you get close to this, it will start wiggling those around to scare you away. But a pretty striking caterpillar. This is
What's the size? Like an inch or?
about an inch. So this is a black spotted prominent. Another gorgeous, gorgeous caterpillar. All of these are not uncommon here in Howard County. This one was just especially nice, all covered with dew.
Where's the head?
Oh, that's the head, and that's the tail, or its prolegs. So these are turbulent phosphilias. They are the behinds there, and this is the head tucked around the corner. These are very gregarious caterpillars. You often find them in big clusters, and they love to be on greenbrier. They're pretty specific to greenbrier. And this is one of my favorite caterpillars. This is a wavy-lined heterocampa. So one really cool thing about heterocampas or caterpillars, they go through what are called instars. So every time that they shed their skin and molt, that's called an instar. Usually they go through about 7 instars, 7 moltings until they become their full adults, and they can look different in every instar. So you think sparrows were hard, start with caterpillars where every instar looks different. Wavy-lined heterocampas, this is its probably 3rd instar. It grows these horns, these antlers in instar like 3 and 4, and then they disappear and they go away. So further instars, they look just normal caterpillars. I am ecstatic when I can find one in an instar 3 or 4, because that's the only time you see these crazy antlers. So this is an imperial moth caterpillar. A lot of people have seen the moth, the beautiful, huge yellow moth, and this is the caterpillar. That's its head. These are its little legs as it's hanging upside down. They're pretty crazy looking. And back to our sparrows. So it's sometimes I'll have a sparrow eating a caterpillar and I'm like, what's it got? No. So when you get into field sparrows are what I call an easy sparrow, because field sparrows are not variable. When you see a field sparrow, it's quote unquote easy to tell from other sparrows. You've got your pink bill, white eye-ring, wing bars, an overall soft pink bird. No streaks. When you see one field sparrow and you understand what they look like, you don't need to worry because you don't see a lot of variation in your field sparrow. Beautiful, overall peachy white bird, no streaks, eye ring, pink bill, easy peasy and very cute. So there's your field sparrow. You're not going to confuse this bird with a lot of other sparrows once you're familiar with what to look for. And there's your beautiful pink bill, eye ring, and classic field sparrow. And cute, just cute. They are here all year long, so you can find them every single season. All right, I tricked you. This is a field sparrow. So the only time field sparrows are hard, and this is as the atlas is winding up, when they're young. So young field sparrows are streaked. That is the only time you see any variation in field sparrows. So that's the one thing. Of course, it's going to be breeding season. If you see this bird, you're generally going to have an adult feeding it. And again, it still has the pink bill and that darling eye ring. It's a cute field sparrow. And boy, I tell you what, you try to find a field sparrow nest, you'll have the parents, skulking around. They've got the food, you're watching, you're like back up 100 more feet because they're never going to go to the nest if they know you're watching them. And they always know you're watching them. But that one, I did manage to get a picture of a very young baby. So again, pink bill, eye ring, overall, just solidly soft, peachy bird. Closely related is the chipping sparrow. So field and chippy are sphazellas, so closely related, but pretty easy to tell apart. When you've got your breeding plumage chippy, you've got that red cap, eye line, dark bill, wing bars. They are here again all year long. Winter chippies are not really common. Get into that in a second, but you can study chipping sparrows and they're very happy to come to your feeder, nest in your yard, so you can get a lot of practice with chippies. Cute little birds, red cap, black bill, eye line, wing bars. Hard to confuse that with your field sparrow. Solid breast, no streaks, and that. Here's your winter chippy. So that's your breeding plumage chippy. This is the same bird, and this is what we would see now. So winter chippies can be a little bit more confused with a field sparrow just because from the back they look a little bit similar. But again, the chipping sparrow is going to have that eye line. They both are going to have the pink bill, but this is not going to be that peachy, soft color that your field sparrow is. So this is your winter chippy, and they will stay this way until you get closer to the breeding season. They'll start to molt back into that nice rusty capped brighter bird. And again, winter chippy. So remember our field sparrow with the streaks when it was a baby? This is a chipping sparrow adult. And then here's a chipping sparrow young bird. So what is the trick of sparrows? If they have an unstreaked breast as adults, they have a streaked breast as a baby. So let's just get even more confused. But again, like I said, normally when you have them at this age, you've got the adult bird feeding it, but this is going to be your chipping sparrow fledgling. Lots of people mistake these birds in the summertime. And they think that they're they think they've got a Lincoln's or a song or something like that. These are chipping sparrow young birds. It's a very, very young chipping sparrow. How would you tell that bird? Lots of practice with sparrows or watching the adult come to feed it. So here's your winter chippy. And the only bird that you would get this confused with in the winter is this one. So this is an American tree sparrow. Now, American tree sparrows over the years have become increasingly hard to find. So one of the things that's the easiest to identify American tree sparrows, oh, wing bars, bicolored bill. That is the only thing you need to see, is that if the bird has a yellow lower mandible and a black top one, it is American tree sparrow. It's the only sparrow that you're going to have bicolored bill, wing bars, red cap, and then when we see this bird from the front, it's going to have a clear breast with one breast spot. But bicolored bill is so obvious. And then, you know, from the back, American tree, chipping sparrow, and field sparrow can look very similar if you're just looking from the back. So you will find flocks of American trees, flocks, I wish, in flocks of sparrows in the winter. You might find an American tree in with field sparrows. Most often I find American trees in small numbers now when they're with field sparrows. And there's one in flight. Again, the wing bars, the rusty head, bicolored bill. And that's the classic from the front. You've got your stick pin on an unstreaked breast and that beautiful red cap. So what other bird has a red cap? Chipping sparrow, but that's only in breeding plumage. So you would not have a red capped chipping sparrow now. Swamp sparrows can have rusty caps, but they're not going to be bright rusty red like this bird. And there again, got your beautiful little bicolored bill. Back when I first started birding, you would have small flocks of American trees. We would have them in moderately good numbers. So their numbers have really diminished to the point where if I can even find 2 or 3 a year now here in Howard County, I feel lucky. So it's a, you know, very sad thing that they're kind of disappearing. And again, that's all you need to see is that bicolored bill. And that's one just in a pretty pose. They have a beautiful little feeding call. And if you get familiar with that, sometimes you'll hear that coming out of the grasses. And back to our caterpillars. So this is a very large caterpillar. This is probably about close to maybe 4 inches long. It's a Cecropia moth caterpillar. And again, it looks almost like a clown. It's so amazing. Everybody has seen this butterfly. So this is a silver spotted skipper. They like to stay rolled in a black locust leaf during the day. So I only get pictures of them when I unroll the leaf. But see how they have these little fake eye spots? So that's to scare away the bird that wants to come and eat them. Speaking of scaring away, that's our spice bush caterpillar. So here's its little head. These are its fake eye spots. And there it is from the side. So see its head and its little prolegs there. And there's its little fake eye spots. It actually is pretty good deterrent to, you know, you don't see many birds go after these. This is a brown hooded owlet moth caterpillar. These are goldenrod specialists. And what's really what's really amazing is as bright as this caterpillar is, they're very, very hard to find because they like to be on the goldenrod stems. And so they can be almost invisible. What's really cool is that if you get a black light flashlight and you go out at night, a lot of these caterpillars will glow. So you can run your blacklight flashlight over goldenrod and you'll see the stripes of these caterpillars in there and you're like, how did I not see that during the day? So do you see the caterpillar here? That's the head. These are the legs. That's its tail. And you can see how it looks just like part of the leaf. So think about a chickadee needs 3,000 caterpillars to raise a brood during the summertime. For caterpillars, they're either going to be very trying to camouflage themselves really well or be really bright to scare predators off, but it's a white lace prominent. And this is a hickory horn doe. So this is in a small instar, that's its head, and that's its tail. And you know they can get like 6 inches long. So this one was only about half an inch. All right, back to our sparrows. So this is Vesper. So Vesper sparrows have your lovely soft streaks, very overall pale whitish looking sparrow, white and gray. You don't see a lot of rusts and reds on this bird, and its overall shape is very different than song, swamp, Lincoln's, savannah. It's a much more chunky looking sparrow. And I'll talk a little bit about how they move in a moment. But one of the things, it's got an eye ring. The number one thing I look for on a Vesper is this cheek hook, which we'll see in another picture. So this looks like a half moon circle on the side of the cheek of the bird. This rusty red here, it also was referred to as the bay wing bunting back in old field guides, because it does have a rust colored mark or bit of feathers on its shoulder. It almost always hides those. It also has white outer tail feathers, but that can be very, very difficult to see. In fact, a lot of times, even when they fly, you only get a tiny flash of those white outer tail feathers. But look for this cheek hook, nice white eye ring, good streaking, and sometimes they'll have a breast spot, sometimes not. When you look for song sparrows, which you could still say have your streaks, have your breast spot, they don't show that white eye ring and they don't show that white cheek hook. So look at that eye ring. That's your Vesper sparrow. They're not always that prominent, but that bird is a really, really good candidate for, you would never see an eye ring like that on a song, swamp, or Lincoln's. Again, look at the tail. It's not really long, not long like the Melaspizas, which are your song, swamp, Lincoln's, about a moderate length. And then again, you cannot see any white and you cannot see any bay. So that's the problem when you're looking at the field guide and it's saying, look for the white outer tail feathers or look for that rust on the wing. You don't often see that on the bird. Look at that cheek hook. It just screams, even from like a field away, I can see that cheek hook on a bird on the ground. And Vespers are often on the ground. They're very much like a horned lark would be. So see that cheek hook, see that white eye ring, and again, overall kind of gray, soft tones on that bird. And very, very often on the ground. And that's a good cheek hook from very far away, even in the goldenrod. That's the number one thing to look for. And that was one peeking at me over a rock. See that eye ring? Really, really evident. Streaks, and then the cheek hook is a little hidden on that bird, but you can still make it out. So there's our lovely fox sparrow. Oh, and going back to Vesper, they used to be breeding here. They might still be in some far remote areas of Western Howard County. Generally, you only see Vespers in the migration, spring and fall migration, and in small numbers. There have been instances of them overwintering, but not real commonly. So right now, you're going to be looking for this beautiful bird. This is our fox sparrow. Hard to mistake this sparrow for other sparrows. It's very large, very well named with its foxy red. If you're lucky enough to have them singing, has one of the most beautiful songs. It has a little chip note that sounds a lot like a brown thrasher. It's this little chap note. So this is one that you would see now, and they spend the winter with us. They come in late in the fall and they leave about mid-March, and they usually sing like crazy towards the late winter time, early spring. There's your fox sparrow. Again, it's our largest sparrow besides our towhee. So if you see them with other sparrows, and they often will be on the ground kicking up leaves, it's going to be hard to mistake that just from its size alone. Again, it has a lot of kind of chevron pattern to its breast streaks. Again, overall foxy red bird. Very, very heavy streaking on the birds. So breast spot, streaks, overall foxy color, and very big bird. You can see how gorgeous that color is and well named. And again, one peeking out at me, and really they blend in so well with the colors in the autumn. And again, hard to mistake that foxy red. Nothing else is going to have those tones of colors. And again, very big round sparrows. White crown. White crown is another sparrow that we can have here over the winter. So spring and fall, you can get them in small numbers in migration, and overwintering, if you're lucky, in some small numbers as well. They're another, what I would classify somewhat easy sparrow, because they're very little variation in white crowns. You can have the adults that have black and white stripes on the head, and the young birds are going to have kind of soft, rusty red white stripes, but they're another on the larger size sparrow, not as big as a fox sparrow, but definitely bigger than all the other sparrows that we've gone through. Not difficult once you get to know those field marks, but look at that lovely pink bill, overall very large size, and those crown stripes. So what else has a pink bill and an unstreaked breast? A field sparrow. But this bird is so much bigger, and the shape is so different, and also has the stripes on the head. And again, it's hard to mistake this bird when you see it in the field, because it's just so big and elegant and striking. And again, this is the adult, beautiful pink bill. You cannot mistake that bird for anything else. They're just gorgeous. And there's one given a scratch. And I think I have a picture on the back. They have it looks like they have a cross on the back of their head.
They do.
And pink bill, streaks, overall very robust big bird. And this is the only, I think, sparrow picture that's not from Howard County. This I actually took in Alaska. So just a little bit different variation, because there are some subspecies of white crowns that you can find here, but that's another story. So this is white-throated sparrow on a very cold day. So white throats, going back to white crowns, easy sparrow, not a lot of variation. White throats, so much variation. White throats can drive you crazy, because they are every different color and shape, and depending on if it's cold and they're fluffed, or if it's warm and they're sleek. But this bird is your brown stripe, has the beautiful little yellow lures, streaks on the breast, and this was like a freeze. I was like, I don't even know how cold it was that day, but we were both freezing. This is a white throat on a very nice fall day. So white throat, yellow lures, crown stripes, overall generally unstreaked breast. This one shows some semblance of streaks, but look at the lures on that bird. The only other bird that has bright yellow is Savannah sparrow in breeding plumage, and you could never mistake the two. White throat, fall white throat. So remember, they come in usually, if we're lucky, at the end of September. Most of them arrive in October. They're here all winter. They'll come to your feeder. You can spend all day on a winter's day just looking at the white throats under your feeder to get a good idea of their different variations. And then they will leave usually by April. So again, beautiful classic white throat and yellow lures. And hard to mistake that bird. Now, here's a white throat with a lot more streaky breasts. So they don't always have that super clean, clear breast. And this one kind of overall grayish tones on the breast, but still your classic white throat. And again, puffed because of the cold. So, you know, you can't always tell by size and shape. And again, you can tell this bird was cold, but look at that. That bird has a central breast spot. So white throats can have every single possible combination of field marks. And easy sparrow, junco, so easy. Juncos really don't need any help because they're just their own beautiful little sparrow. Slate gray, some can be soft gray, some can be very black, always indistinct, you know, you cannot mistake that beautiful little pink bill and known as our snowbird because they're one of the later ones to come in. They're here now, they'll be here all winter, and again, they'll leave early spring. So we're very lucky to have them. Winter is a great time for birding for sparrows. All times are a great time for birding for sparrows, but we're lucky that we have all winters to study them and so many winter-only species. So here's beautiful little junco. I'm always so happy when I see my first one. And again, this is your classic kind of slate gray, dark junco. All right, so you would not see juncos and these caterpillars at the same time because there's not a lot of overlap. But one of the coolest September, October things are your slug caterpillars. Such a terrible name for the most beautiful caterpillars that we have. They're called slug caterpillars because of the way they move on the leaf. And they move kind of like a slug that's very soft and graceful. But this is called a button slug. Saddleback, one of the slug caterpillars that most people are very sorry to encounter if they touch it. I have been stung by these a few times and it is really bad. All these spines are just terrible, terrible. This is called a skiff moth caterpillar. So that's its head, that's its tail. And then this is really interesting. Many caterpillars are parasitized by wasps, primarily wasps. And the wasps will lay their eggs inside the caterpillar and the pupa, the cocoons will come out. So they do believe that this is a fake cocoon spot to keep wasps from coming to parasitize this caterpillar because it'll believe that it's already parasitized. This is a smaller parasa. So remember, all caterpillars are named for the moth that they turn into. So, you know, some of the names don't make any sense with what you see when they're caterpillars. But again, these little reticulating spines, don't touch them. This is a nason slug. Looks like a beautiful little jewel. And this is the holy grail of slug caterpillars. It's called the spun glass slug. This is the one that most people are crazy to find. And again, it looks like it's made from spun glass, but all of those reticulating spines are something that you don't want to touch. And this is the monkey slug. So this is the caterpillar of the hag moth. What's really fascinating is that this caterpillar is the mimic of a spider exuvia. So it kind of looks like a spider shed skin. The moth itself is a bumblebee mimic. So it's the craziest combination of things that you can find. Birds generally do not eat these caterpillars. So their defense is to be horrible to touch. And they just often will be right on the tops of the leaves in plain sight, but I've never seen a bird eat one of these. So here's our little grasshopper sparrow. So grasshoppers look like somebody went and plunked them on the head. Very flat-headed little bird, that white eye-ring. White eye-ring compared to the white eye-ring of a Vesper sparrow or a field sparrow. This bird generally will never see any serious streaks on the breast. Very, very different shape than the field sparrow. Field sparrow is long and slim and cute and elegant, and this bird is a fat little bumblebee of a bird. So very, very different shape. And again, you've got your white eye ring, yellow lure, but overall just round little tiny plump bird. Again, they look like they're all head. Grasshopper sparrow. Very, very, very secretive little sparrow. Even when they're singing on a perch, it's often just right off the ground or they're singing from the ground. So you'll hear them singing and you're like, you know it's right there, but you can't see it because it's down under the grasses. So look at how short the tail is. White eye ring, typical grasshopper sparrow. But what happens when you have a sparrow with a solid breast? They have streaked breast babies. So this is a grasshopper sparrow youngster, and you can see the streaks on the breast. This is a breeding sparrow here. They're only here, come in the springtime, leave in the fall. They actually leave really early. They're usually gone by August. So when you do most of your sparrowing in September, October, most grasshoppers are gone by then. But this is your young grasshopper. And there it's from the back. So again, super short tail and bold eye ring, but nothing like the eye ring on a field or a vesper. And this is a very young grasshopper, but look at that bill and that head. They just look like a head. Cute little grasshopper, again, a young bird because you can see the streaks there. And this is another grassland bird that you'll often find in the same habitat with your grasshopper. This is savanna. So short tail, and here's the tricky thing with savanna. They often will show what looks like white outer tail feathers. You do not really see that called out in your field guides, but many savannas will give that white outer tail feather appearance, but very, very short tail. And again, you're going to tell this bird because it's a little bird that looks like an egg. It's very small, compact, very athletic. It's got yellow lures most of the time. It's here spring through fall. You do have some of these birds that spend the winter, but for the most part, you have to go to very specialized habitat to find them. They like the landfill, they like old cornfields, they like very short grass areas, kind of unlike most of the other sparrows that we're gonna have. Short tail, beautiful little small bird, white and black bracing down the back in the chevron pattern. So pink bill, see how tiny and round and compact this bird is, very short tail, chevron patterns on the breast. That egg. If you see a bird from the front that looks like an egg, it's going to be your Savannah sparrow. And again, the chevron stripes. Short tail, yellow lures, pink bill, chevron stripes, and very snowy white. See how it's egg-shaped? And then yellow, pink, and white. Very snowy white. And if you see a sparrow that goes flying off and is zipping around, very athletic, goes up into the top of the tree, that's going to be a Savannah sparrow. White and black bracing down the back. Pink bill, yellow lures. Egg, that's all I think when I see a Savannah, it looks like a little egg. But see the difference in, how those are like little chevrons. Very, very clear on savannas that that's what the little breast stripes look like. And look at how short that tail is. There's very few other sparrows besides your grasshopper and some of the rare ones that have a tail that short. Bing, almost nothing there. And then your pink bill. So what looks like a sparrow that's not a sparrow? Red-winged blackbirds. What looks like a sparrow that's not a sparrow? Purple finch. Dick thistle. Rose-breasted grosbeak. Dick thistle. Horned lark. Not too many people confuse these for sparrows, but it happens. Cute, because you often find them in the same habitat.
Mhm.
So difficult one. This is bobolink. Bobolink. Bobolinks are often mistaken for sparrows. So here's a bobolink and there's a song sparrow. Size difference, really big size difference. And bobolink from the back. And another little bobolink. Bobolinks are another one that you see in the fields associated with sparrows. So very easily mistaken for sparrows, but they are bigger. American pipit. So this was on the path at Centennial Park, on the dam. So it was a very foggy day, but pipits often will walk on the ground. And then what's the one thing you want to watch out for? They will often show that cheek hook. So similar to a Vesper sparrow cheek hook, but very different looking bird. So that is that part. And real quick, I have a few, if we can get those couple extra pictures,
See what I can do.
if we can find it.
While he's doing that. When we're seeing birds fly up from like the swale, and you say song sparrows go flat and grasshoppers go up, has it got that right?
We're gonna
Yeah,
start
so-
over again.
Savannah's on there.
Yep, so we'll do, well, I've got just a couple extra pictures. Because I made this program 10 years ago, and there's a couple other I'd love to show. So Song Swamp Savannah, Song Swamp Lincolns are all very closely related. They will fly very similar, mid-level. The song will flop its little tail as it goes, and they generally go into thickets or they go into a sapling. Savannah sparrows, when they flush, they're extremely athletic and fast. They will zip, 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 and then they will fly often up into the top of the tallest tree that you see, like the tallest tree, or they zip back down to the ground. So you will, I will say never, you will never see a Song Swamp Lincoln's go up into the top of a very tall tree. Savannah and Vespers, when they flush, they will go up very, very high. So sometimes little tricks like that will help you with what is what.
Thank you.
Like Swainson's thrush.
Just added a couple more pictures to the program just because this is the Meadowbrook clay colored that I found this fall. So clay colored is a very close to field and chippy. This bird, what you're looking for to tell a clay colored from a chipping sparrow in the winter is, does it have a line between the eye and the bill? That's the number one thing you're looking for. That is the clincher field mark to tell you that you have a clay colored instead of a chippy. You can't always see it well, but overall pale bird, very, very similar to a winter chippy, but go for that between the eye and bill first. This is Kurt's LeConte's that he found. So this is another rarity for Howard County. Again, how many have we had? Five, you know, yeah, so very, very rare, but this is the one that Kurt found in the swale at Meadowbrook, Conservancy a number of years ago.
Veterans Day 2020.
Mhm. So again, sharp, very, very short tail. I mean, orange bird. So what do I always say when we're doing our field trips for sparrows? And we're like, anybody see an orange bird, you stop and we're going for it. So that's our LeConte. Beautiful, beautiful little bird. So this is the Nelson's sparrow, very similar to the LeConte in coloration. This is another one that's our autumn rarity that we hope for. Another Nelson's, and I don't have a good picture because they're always skulking, but both of these birds were at the Conservancy. And gotta plug my love of my life. So what's worse than loving caterpillars and sparrows, but spiders? So I just have to say, from now till I die, bolus spiders or Mustafa spiders are the passion of my life. So I'm going to give a plug for everybody. If you find a bolus spider, which you can start to find them in June, until the last one I ever found, like to live, was the first week of November. This is what I'm looking for now. So these are the egg sacs of the toad-like bolus spider. And on the tip of a branch, at the very bottom, you'll see with spider silk some dead leaves. That right there is the egg sac. So this is a close-up of egg sacs. And this is what you look for. So if you have a sapling where most all the leaves are gone, but you see a cluster on the tip, you'll see a lot of them that are not with spider egg sacs. But this is what you're looking for. So if you really want to get excited about looking for things in the winter, look for bolus spiders egg sacs, because that's what I'm doing every spare minute I have. So
All gone.
anyway, I found 4 species of Mustafa spiders in Howard County, 2 of which are state records. This is a Yirgani bolus spider. This is its little head. These are its legs, and this is its abdomen. So during the day, they cement themselves. You can see its spider silk there on the leaf, and they sleep during the day just cemented on the leaf. So this is the Yirganis. It doesn't have a common name. That's how big it is. That's it on a maple leaf with my finger. So it kind of gives you an idea of what you're looking for size-wise. This is what is amazing about Mustafa spiders. So during the day, they're on their little leaf, all sleeping. And at night, they come out to the end of the leaf and they spin a little bolus out of their spider silk. What they do is they go to the end of the leaf and they emit the pheromone. Over the course of the night, they change the pheromones that they're emitting to different moth species. So the male moths come in because they smell those pheromones and they think it's a female moth, but it's a spider faking them out. So when they come in close, she starts to spin that bolus, hits the moth with it, brings it in, wraps it up and eats it. So this is Mustafa ferensoma. This is the toad-like bolus spider. This is Tamiqua. So this is the rarest one I've found. I've only found one of this one, and there's only like maybe a dozen records in the country. So very, very rare. And here's what's cool. So this is the male. That is what the male looks like. And then this is the female toad-like bolus. That's her eyes, her little abdomen, and her legs. There's only, I think, one other, I have video of this in about 100 pictures, one other record of female with males. So it's very, very rare. And there's the cornfield bull spider. That's our fourth species. There's, see her eyes and their little horns and her legs and her abdomen. Just a plug for my spiders. So there again, this is clay color, real quick. And our clay colored. Pale, white, pink bill, no line between the eye and the bill.
It's the absence of line that makes it a clay color. right?
Yes,
Yes.
the absence of the line between the eye and the bill. That's the number one thing you're looking for. Now, this bird is very pale. If you're lucky, they'll be very snowy white and pale. And there again, beautiful, no line, and lovely little clay colored sparrow. And that's the one from Conservancy. So you can see that bird has a little bit of streaking, but basically overall pale. And that was our meadowrook bird. So those are the last clay colored LeContes and Nelsons. I don't have a picture of a lark sparrow. That's what I need. We have had them in Howard County a few times on some of the field trips that I've done. So sparrows, song swamp Lincolns, field chippy, white-throat white crown, fox, junco. They're not that many. So when you really break it down to know what sparrows you're looking for in what season, like the pinnacle that we've ever had were 12 sparrows in one day. And that was on some of our sparrow big day field trips. And that was when we just happened to get like every possible species that you could get in October. But on most days, 6 different species, 8 if you're lucky. You know, it seems confusing because so many of them are so variable. But when you break it down to really look at how many species we might have, it's not that many. So study, practice, practice, practice. I say you have to look at about 10,000 song sparrows before you can become comfortable with them all. And I'm not kidding, really. You've got to look at song sparrows. And who doesn't want to go out all day and look at song sparrows?
Okay, Bonnie, you already have a coin, but we had to have something. So the St. John's Communities Church Ladies Aid produces these. Probably want to get a look at it. It doesn't have a sparrow. I apologize. But it is an abstract version of a
Oh, I love it.
Thank you very much. All right, next month it's Kevin Heffernan and butterflies, and I think we have to clear the building here so we can come back. Happy holidays, drive safe, have fun with your families.
Thank you.